Okay, over to you, George. Oh, Phil
Thank you.
first.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Phil. What a story. England. Okay, I'm ready. Come on. I'm ready. Come on.
So,
England's strongest man. Put your hand up. I'll wrestle you for it. Now, did you ever dream when you were a kid that you would actually be UK's strongest man?
I was England's strongest man. So yeah, no, I never. I always aimed for it, but I never actually thought I would achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought it was very important to have targets and aim for stuff. So that's what I did.
Yeah, you said as you were growing up, you were very, very nervous all the time.
Yes.
What was it that made you nervous, or why do you think you were a nervous child?
I was just scared. I was scared. So obviously, after I broke my leg, I went back to that scared, and I was just a nervous child. Some people in their nature were quite nervous, and I was scared of the dark. I was scared of authority. I was just scared of it, and that's why I started to work out, because I was fed up of being scared. Why am I so scared of everything? I don't need to be. These heroes aren't. So I need to stop being scared. I was always nervous about getting stuff wrong. My father was very strict, but they were very reasonable with me. So I can't explain it. It's just my nature was, I was a very nervous person.
So when you were actually at school and going through college, you said you wanted to join the police. Was that your aim, to join the police from there, or did you have another job in mind?
No, that is what I wanted to do. All I wanted to be was a police officer. So I ended up being a bouncer first, and then security in a shopping mall. So everything was lined up to be a police officer. That was all I wanted to be. And I remember just thinking, I've got it sorted. Once I'm a police officer, when I'm a police officer, I will be happy. I will be sorted.
Now, you said you started at a very young, 12 years of age, you started working out and things like that.
Yeah.
How did your parents react to that? You know, with all this working out and things.
Yeah. My parents kind of let me do me. It wasn't the path that they wanted. They were both academics. So I'm 6'3", and my father is 5'8", and my mother's like 5'6". My sister's 5'2". I'm an anomaly.
Okay. I mean, you were so tall in that, and you said you were scared, but you said you were still scared of school. Did you not did you hang around with a lot of mates to do away with that fear, or did you just come into yourself and say, look, I'm going to do this because I'm scared?
I had friends, but we were very sporty and competitive. And when I started to work out, I became less and less nervous, because I started to get more and more confidence. I had some friends. We were the sports kids at school. But school, for a lot of guys, if there's any young people listening, I just survived school. You can enjoy it. But I didn't particularly. I didn't enjoy academia. I enjoyed physical. I was only ever happy when I was doing something physical. I needed to expend my energy.
I mean, it takes a lot of dedication, of course. I mean, so how hard was the regime that you put yourself through?
For England's strongest man?
Yeah, for building yourself up, yeah.
So I worked very hard. I trained very hard. I would train 5-6 days a week, up to 2 to 3 hours a session.
Wow.
It was so much so I would actually have to, halfway through a session, because I could end up losing 2 to 3 kilos per session. Wow. Because of the calories that I burn and the sweat, obviously. So what I would do, I would have 1,000-calorie protein shake in the middle of the workout. So I'd have like a 10-minute rest, have my 1,000 calories, because I was so scared of losing weight. Because you think of your body as an engine. So big roaring like V8 engine requires a lot of fuel. So but obviously you need to exercise it and stuff, so you burn off so much more calories. So I was actually eating between 8,000 and 9,000 calories per day.
Wow.
It was like a job. It was part of the job. That was probably the hardest part of it.
And quite expensive by the sound of it as well.
Yes, but I mean, at the time I had lots of money there, so
so anyway, you left school. You joined the police, you got your dream job. How did that make you feel? How did that make you feel when you got your dream job?
But it's a sense of, you pat yourself on the back. You're like, oh, well done. I've achieved a lot. So I was my biggest cheerleader. I was saying, And I would compare myself to other people. I would say they're 21 and they don't know what they're doing. They haven't got a proper job or anything like that. I wasn't very nice. And I would do that. I'd compare myself to them and say, look how much better I am than them. But I'd never look in myself and say, look how unhappy you actually are. So I think it was just a smokescreen.
Yeah.
To look after that. But yeah, I did send, and I said when you reach these watering holes, sometimes they do fulfill your thirst for a short period of time, but it dries out very quickly. And that is what I'd say describe the police as. I achieved it. I was so proud. I was so happy with myself. So, but it just doesn't last. That happiness just, it doesn't satisfy, and you just need a drink again. Just like I need a drink now, actually.
So, in the police force, did you see yourself either staying there or climbing up the ladder to become maybe an inspector in later life or something? Did you imagine that would happen?
So as I started, as I was in the police, I started doing the strongman, and at first in the police, yes, I wanted to go up the ranks and achieve something there, but then strongman came along, and I realized I was getting a lot of complaints and stuff, and I was getting in trouble a lot. So I was like, you know what, strongman's a thing. So I altered my focus because the police wasn't satisfying. So that watering hole was drying out very quickly. So I started to kind of go to this other watering hole, which was the strongman, and competing in the strongman. So I'd kind of be passing between the two, trying to get the thirst quenched from that. So I'd say halfway through my police career, so I was in the police for 8 years. Halfway through, I switched over to just wanting to focus on being a strongman.
You also said you were a doorman, a bouncer as well.
Yeah.
Have you had any hairy experiences as being a bouncer?
Oh my goodness, yes. So, actually, I ended up opening a security firm as well. So we ended up running the largest nightclub in Sheffield and having lots of clubs and stuff like that. That's where a lot of the money came from.
He's coming. Jesus is coming. I can't wait to hear the trumpet call. He's coming. Jesus is coming. And when he comes, we'll crown him Lord of all. And when he comes, we'll crown him Lord of all.
Yes, you got like gangsters telling you they're going to shoot you and stuff like that. You get into scraps and stuff, but I've been a scrapper all my life. I say scrapper for people who don't know that term. I was a fighter. I used to street fight quite a bit. Usually get the better of people. Sometimes I lost. It's when I usually try to pick a fight with 3 people. You get a bit too cocky.
You said in the police you were getting lots of work and lots of rests, but you also got lots of complaints. Okay, how did you feel when you got called in the office that day and you sat down with the chief inspector?
So my attitude at that time was, everyone on the shift and everyone they like sang my praises because I'd go and get the bad guys who are really rough, and I'd protect my whole team. I'd really protect. So I'd always go, I'd be the first to go in. So I basically completely flipped it around from being a nervous little child to being the bravest guy people knew. So again, I guess that's another rewarding hole. It's like just being a brave guy, that doesn't satisfy either. So when I went into there, I went in with the attitude of, what? Because I get complaints, I should get a medal for this. But then obviously, because you go in defense, so when you have something put on your toes like that, so when you have something thrown at you like that, you didn't expect it, and so you kind of get defensive. So that's what I did. It's only when I had time to reflect back on, actually, I kind of suck as being a person. So, and that's when later on in my life, I had a bit of a vision of the speedboat on the lake. It's exactly everything I touched was just turned to mess. It turned to heartache. I hurt people. People who wanted to be around me, they weren't my friends. They liked who I was. They didn't like me. So,
how did that make you feel? You know, that they just wanted to be with you for what you were rather than who you are.
Well, I had such low self-esteem at that time, which sounds crazy for someone to say that. So I I kind of knew that they just wanted me for my performance. So, sorry, are you still there? Yeah,
Yeah, I'm still there.
My battery thing. And I basically, I just played up. I was the performing monkey.
Mm-hmm.
I played what people wanted because I thought people liked me for this, and people respected me for this. And what you need to know is people won't ever just respect you for performing like that. If people don't, I mean, what other people think of me is absolutely none of my business now. And that is, it used to be so important to me. But all I'm bothered about now is what Jesus thinks. And I know that Jesus loves me so much. So my identity comes from him. And like I said, other people, whatever they think of me, even now, it's none of my business. So I'm not going to let their problem be my problem. But back then, if people didn't like me, that was a big problem to me. Because I've been, well, why don't you like me? And then basically you just, you'd make an enemy.
Now, at the time you were with the inspector and you mentioned all the complaints, were the complaints, in your view, justified?
So
people just complaining, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So as a police officer, I was I knew where the line was and I never stepped over the line. So, but if people wanted to have a fight with me, I would have a fight with them and win. So it was more, I pushed the boundaries rather than broke the lines, and I wasn't very nice to them. So obviously I had a lot of hatred. And that was kind of a vent. So if someone hated me, it was like, right, you're fair game. You're fair game for me to hate. Well, so as for, I guess people are asking did I break the law doing it? No, because I was always smart enough to know where and when and how I could fit within the law boundaries. So I was cunning in that sense. And this is, anyone listening, I was not proud of my actions. I was not proud of my actions whatsoever. But as I said, I've been forgiven for that. Yeah.
So anyway, after that particular moment, you said your focus changed from that time on to be the strongest man.
Yes.
So what was your goal? Did you want to be the world's strongest man or just be the strongest man you could be?
Yeah.
You want to be a Charles Atlas, maybe?
Sorry?
Charles Atlas?
yeah. So I wanted to be the world's strongest man. And that's why at the point where my life changed, I was actually competing to get into world's strongest man. But what I didn't mention in the talk was that leg break, horrific as it was, I can genuinely say is the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. Because what Jesus does is, if you accept him as your savior, everything kind of makes sense in my life and why it happened, even though I was time, I can see a purpose to it. I mean, and on this side of eternity, sometimes we won't get answers to stuff. I don't know why my friends killed themselves, and I'm sad that they killed themselves, and I don't know why God didn't stop that. I've got questions, but I trust that God will use these bad things for my good because I'm his son.
Amen. Now, of course, what was it like when you were flying high? You said you partied with millionaires. And did any of these millionaires leave any impression on you as to who they were, or, the kind of people they were? Did they leave any impression on you?
Yeah, so some of it, we partied and stuff. I went to my sponsor he was a multi-millionaire, so he used to party with the rich and famous, and I used to come along to be the performing monkey, to basically my giant sponsored athlete, and they used to call me the bull. I'd go. I'd met people like Vinnie Jones and a few others, sort of people like that. I used to go to their social events and stuff like that, and lots of rich and famous people. And you know what? You have to realize these people are just people. These people are genuinely just people. They are just as lost as the next person.
Yeah, you said you had the fame, you had the fortune, and this seems to be what a lot of people want to seek, is that they want to be famous. So, is it good for you?
He's coming
Life Stories.
So, I mean, I never got to the massive famous stage. Obviously, in the circles of strongman, I was very well known. I've been on TV lots of times and stuff like that. But because of the parties, I never really got to the top level. But I'm thankful for that. So, the fame, I mean, okay, so this is a watering hole. Think of this as a watering hole. If you're thinking that fame will bring you happiness, okay, the likes on your Facebook or likes on your Instagram bring you happiness? If they do, genuine happiness, then maybe fame is your route. But I would argue most people, yes, it's exciting when lots of people like it and stuff, but then you've got to put another post. And what happens if you don't get as many? It's completely unfulfilling. And the first time you put a step wrong, like I did with my Atlas stone landing on my leg, you'll lose it. You'll lose it. So it's something that can be dropped through your hands. I mean, fame itself is not a bad thing, but if it is what Christians describe as your idol, what you put as your purpose for living, then yes, I'd say it's, well, why do famous people kill themselves? There's a lot of famous people, and very, very sadly, they kill themselves. But they've So if you were after fame, do you think that you think you're that different from all these other people? Because they're completely lost, so much so that they feel they can't go on, which is tragic and horrific, and I hate that. But will it make you happy in the long run? No. It's just another watering hole you're going to go to.
And as you were doing this, all the training, you said you were also doing drink and drugs and all sorts. How did you manage to maintain the physical strength in that while you were doing all these things at once? How did you manage to do that?
I took more steroids. But no, I did train very hard. I did everything to the extreme. So I partied hard. I trained hard. And remember, because at that time I had no self-esteem and I didn't care if I lived or died. So I would take it and say, if I didn't wake up in the morning, so what? So, yeah, I was in a dark place.
Even then, though, you said you were still searching, and you mentioned there because of one little mistake, you seem to lose everything.
Yeah.
Did you think it was just a little mistake?
Yeah. Well, I know this was an act of God, and I'm so thankful. That's why I can say that was the best day of my life, because that changed the direction of my life. And this is what, as Christians, we describe as what you put your foundations on. What do you put your foundations on? And Jesus told us a story of a man that built his house on the rock, and a man that built his house on the sand. If you are building your life on worldly things, this is the sand, like I was. And one little mistake, one storm goes by, you could lose it all. So what I do now is my house is firmly built on Jesus as my rock, so that he can't lose, so I can't lose.
Amen. Now, I just have to ask you, when you did injure your leg and you were in the hospital, did you quote the famous line, "I'll be back"?
I did. Told everyone I would be back, and by the grace of God, I did. I came back. I came 50 UK strongest man. There's 70 million people in UK, and I'll take 5th place. That's relatively good.
Yep.
So I proved that I could come back, and I did.
Excellent. But you weren't, even though you came back, you said you weren't very happy. Very happy. And you came to the point that you were depressed and all sorts. Do you think people have to be very unhappy, depressed, or whatever, or have tragedy in life before they can come to God?
No, not at all. It was. I am an extreme character. I'm more of an extreme person, so I need extreme wake-up calls. But Jesus wants everyone to follow him, and he's not exclusively for anyone specific. And Jesus will basically accept you, that whatever you've done in your past, no matter how bad you are or have been, you're forgiven, because when Jesus died on the cross, because Jesus was God's son, Jesus was God. He was perfect. He lived a perfect life. But so his perfect life was far more superior to any of the sins that I've ever done. And when Christians say that Jesus took our sins away, that's when he did that on the cross. Because we can't have this relationship with God when God is.
He's coming. Jesus is coming. I can't wait to hear the trumpet call. He's coming. Jesus is coming. And when he comes, we'll crown him